Hey guys, Comic Boom here to review Batman issue 54. It's been a couple weeks since I did a video, and why is that? Well, last week was that fifth week of September, and it was a annuals week, and all those Hanna-Barbera characters with DC characters, I'm just not really a big fan of, so it was kind of an easy week. It was a cheap week. I bought very few comics, and anyways, it was nice to have a break sometimes from doing videos, and I focused on other things, and so now I'm back to review Batman 54. And, well, this is it's a one-shot. This story sort of picks up, it's a one-shot story of Nightwing basically trying to cheer up Batman because Catwoman left him at the altar, and it's a flashback. It's a flashback comic, really. It flashes back to when young Dick Grayson was a kid that was adjusting to the, dealing with the loss of his parents. Young Dick Grayson, of course, was part of the circus, part of the Flying Graysons. His parents were killed by the mob, and eventually Bruce Wayne was at the circus that night, saw that Dick Grayson's parents were killed. Obviously, he could relate to young Dick Grayson, and Dick Grayson became the ward of Bruce Wayne, and of course became the first Robin. And we all know that song and dance and that story. And this is basically just an adult Nightwing basically joking around and trying to cheer up Batman because he thinks that he's not dealing with his feelings, because we all know Batman doesn't deal with his feelings very well. And this is basically what the whole issue is. It's okay. It's a very meh issue. Artistically, the artist is Matt Wagner. Matt Wagner is an artist I don't see a lot of his work around very much anymore. I think the last time I saw him, I read anything by Matt Wagner. I think he did some Grendel issues. He drew some issues of the character Grendel, I believe, back in the day. Anyways, it's been a long time. Matt Wagner did the art, and Matt Wagner's son apparently was originally scheduled to do the colors, but apparently was, according to the Bleeding Cool gossip, was actually fired because DC didn't like the artistic style of the colorist, who was actually Matt Wagner's son. So they got rid of him, and they replaced him with another colorist by the name of Tomei Mori. And Clayton Coles is the letterer, and Matt and Brennan Wagner, they did the cover. So Brennan Wagner did the color, did the coloring for the cover. So Matt and his son Brennan did the cover. Brennan doing the coloring. So it's not bad. Artistically, this is very different than what we've become accustomed for Tom King's Batman run from issue 1 through 53. And it might be a little jarring for some. I don't mind it. I don't mind Matt Wagner as an artist. I think that the art was pretty decent here. It was okay. There's some issues where he's not the greatest on backgrounds. Some of the issues might appear to be a little bit rushed, but for the most part, they're pretty good. I mean, there's some pretty good sequences there. The art's where I think it's pretty decent. It tells the story that Tom King wants to tell. Again, I don't. It's not bad for a one shot. Now, so artistically, you'll decide for yourself. It is a little different than what you've become accustomed. It's a one shot. You can definitely skip the issue, I think, from a storytelling point of view. But my attitude on one shots is, why not get a one shot? I mean, you're going to get the idea of what Tom King's trying to convey. And that is the fact this in my view is only really the fourth issue where we're dealing with the fact that Batman might be losing his edge. Tom King in interviews has said that he tried to convey that in the first 49 issues or first 50 issues, that Batman, the whole question of can a happy Batman be an effective Batman, but he failed. I don't think he successfully showed that in the first 50 issues. He only suggested that in issue 51 through 53 with the Mr. Freeze trial, where Bruce Wayne lost it, because we finally saw some emotional reaction from Bruce Wayne in dealing with Selina leaving him. But if Batman's lost his edge, it's because Selina left him. He wasn't losing his edge because of his relationship with Selina. There's no evidence of that in the first 50 issues. So in any event, I've said this before and I'll say it again. Tom King isn't telling a very effective long-term narrative. In terms of the long story, I don't think he's doing a particularly good job. But every now and then, if you nitpick and take individual issues out, you can actually get more out of what he was trying to say than if you try to fit all the pieces into his longer narrative, which I think breaks down in multiple places, in multiple ways, and defy logic, and so we have to suspend disbelief beyond what is normally required of us in a comic book for a superhero, if you can believe that. But in any event, I digress. What about the story here? It's very meh. There's a couple things that I think kind of interesting here. This is just Dick Grayson throughout the entire thing trying to cheer up Batman, and they're fighting ridiculous villains like the Quilt of crazy, the Quilt Man, and then there's they're making fun of just crazy villains that they're taking down, and Dick Grayson's just trying to make some jokes and cheer up Batman, but Batman just won't have it because he's still in sort of a depressed state because of Catwoman leaving him at the altar. The last story, I mean, the last page, basically, there's so much here that there's something that I find almost irritating about the story, and that is that Tom King's basically trying to convey the message that that he uses cucumber sandwiches. That's his theme. The cucumber sandwich idea is basically his way of trying to convey the lesson that Dick Grayson is trying to get Batman to open up to, and it's what Batman says at the end is, keep trying, keep trying. So even if you hate something and you can't do it, just keep trying because it's worth it. Just keep trying because it's worth it in the end. That's the final page. Now, what that has to do with the larger narrative, I guess you can figure that out. I'm trying to give Tom King the benefit of the doubt here. This basically is an issue where you really see how just a bad a parent Bruce Wayne was to Dick Grayson. And he really was a bad parent. I mean, we all kind of suspected that and knew that because he's Batman, he's obsessed. And if it wasn't for Alfred, who did all the cooking and the cleaning and the caring for Dick Grayson, I mean, Dick Grayson never really got a lot of love from Bruce Wayne, from Batman. I mean, he just didn't. And it's fairly painfully obvious in this issue, although that might just be because of the way it's written. But to give an example of with the cucumber sandwiches, Dick Grayson hates cucumber sandwiches. When he was young, Bruce Wayne, Batman, always basically forced him to eat cucumber sandwiches. And then that was such one of the inside jokes through it, but it's a serious one because at the end, Batman tells Dick Grayson, my father loved cucumber sandwiches. I just told you what he told me, and that is don't give up on them. Keep trying again and again because I swear they're worth it. Now, of course, I'm not an idiot. I know that the story isn't really about cucumber sandwiches. I know that. That's just sort of symbolic. But cucumber sandwiches has been something that Batman has eaten before, and the fact that it's clear that he forced and that Dick Grayson ate cucumber sandwiches despite hating them, and he grew to love them over time, is something that I got to tell you, as someone who has grown up, whenever I was forced to eat anything, to this day I hate those foods. It doesn't work. It's a very poor analogy, so the analogy doesn't work. So even as a symbol, it doesn't work. It's ridiculous advice that if you hate something, keep doing it. Do you hate it? What's your worst food? What's your worst food? Doesn't matter. Keep eating it. Do you hate broccoli? I don't care. Keep trying. Keep eating it. Keep eating it. Keep eating it. Keep eating it. I promise you, it'll be worth it. No, it won't. It won't be. Is there somebody out there that you hate? Is there a person out there that you absolutely detest? Hey, keep hanging out with him. Keep hanging out with him. Keep hanging out with him. Don't worry, they're worth it. Are you sick and tired of the President of the United States? Keep watching him. Don't give up on him. Don't give up on him. Don't give up on him. Really? That's shitty advice. It's terrible advice. But at the same time, you can maybe see that maybe Batman, that's how Batman thinks. Batman is so relentless because Batman never gives up. And so you can almost see Batman being, yeah, he is that bad a parent, because Batman is imposing his will on his kids. This is a father-son story. And Batman, Batman is so stupid and so terrible a parent that it never occurs to him that if you're going to force your kid to eat cucumber sandwiches, imagine how obsessed you must be. But Batman is relentless. Now, I know this is a ridiculous video in the sense that I keep talking about cucumber sandwiches, but in a sense, that's why this one-shot story is simultaneously absurd, and yet at the same time, it has something to say about Batman. Batman is obsessive. He never gives up. He never, ever gives up. And I can believe that maybe Batman is that crazy that he wouldn't give up on... Batman is probably the type of guy that would eat shit and keep eating it until he liked it if he absolutely had to. What's disturbing, though, is that he did the same. That's exactly what he did to Dick Grayson, but it wasn't shit that he was eating. It was cucumber sandwiches, which I might add are completely calorie. They don't have any calories. So after a night of adventuring and crime fighting, young Dick Grayson is likely starving. And if you're going to come home and you have to eat cucumber sandwiches, that isn't going to give you any energy whatsoever. Nutritionally, it's a horrible thing to do, and it's a stupid thing to eat if you actually want energy and if you actually believe in some degree of caloric intake. Now, I don't say that as a nutritional expert. I think most people know that cucumbers don't have any calories in them. But again, I realize that the story is not about cucumbers. I do that. I do understand that. But it's because it's just the whole absurdity of it that somehow Dick Grayson is turned out to be this fun, jovial guy who's cracking jokes. Dick Grayson almost comes across like Peter Parker in this issue, which I think is a little bit off, but whatever, close enough. Dick Grayson tries to be joking about it, and he's joking about the fact that really, in many ways, Bruce Wayne really was a very terrible parent, and it really was up to Alfred to be that softening voice and to really do the raising of Dick Grayson, to provide the compassion that's needed to raise a young child, because it never came from Batman, who, good lord, even shame on Alfred for not telling Batman, why are we feeding this kid cucumber sandwiches, for God's sakes? I mean, I imagine Alfred sprinkled some vitamin dust or some vitamin pills so that at least young Dick Grayson could get some energy. And in any event, guys, there's some jokes that Dick Grayson tells throughout the issues. There's some flashbacks, and there's one scene here. It's kind of a nice joke. Bruce Wayne makes some comments where Dick Grayson's eating chips, and then Alfred says he needs a proper meal, and because cucumber sandwiches aren't cutting it, and so at least they kind of maybe recognize some of the absurdity of cucumber sandwiches, but it also recognizes a little bit of the absurdity of you get a little bit into the insight of maybe what it was like to be raised by Bruce Wayne with that obscene obsession of being Batman, and thank God, what I got out of this issue was how important Alfred is. That it really was. Thank God for Alfred, because if it wasn't for Alfred, probably every member of the Bat family would be more crazy than they already are. But if there's any sanity in Dick Grayson, it's because of Alfred. It's in spite of Bruce Wayne. That's what I get out of this one shot. So I thank Tom King for writing this. This is one of his better written Batman stories in a long time, quite frankly. It still has some flaws, like I said. But at least it makes me think. It gave me some laughs. It was humorous. I thought the art worked. I thought the art was okay. I could nitpick, but not. It's nice to see Matt Wagner back again. It's nice to see that his son helped him out on the cover too. Father-son artistic team on the cover on a story that is essentially about a father-son relationship. So, guys, let me know what you think. And until next time, Comic Boom out.